Okay, today we are going to talk about how to code lists in Python. So let's kind of give you an example. In this particular example, we're using a variable called myList. And instead of setting it equal to one value, we use these square brackets to set it equal to as many values as we want. In this case, we have apple, banana, and cherry. So if I were to print this list, it would print our list, right? There's our cute little grocery list. All right. Now, it can contain any type, like we've done strings on that first example, but now we can show you you can do ints, you can do floating point or double values. So a list can contain, it can even contain mixed items in Python, which is unheard of. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there's mixed items, so I can have a mixed list of random things. There's a true, there's a 12, there's a decimal, there's a false, there's a string, and it will print those items. Now, there's a couple of functions to help you with these lists. The len function will determine the length of the list, and the way you use it is you don't have to put it in a print statement. It could be stored into a variable, but you use len and then myList, and that says there's 3 items in this list, and it determines that when you instantiate it or add to it. So there's apple, banana, cherry. Those are 3 items, so we'll display 3. If you want to access just a single item, you can use the square brackets in your list to do so. Now keep in mind, in computers, we always start our counting at 0. So this would be, apple would be the 0 position, and banana would be the 1 position, and so that's why it's displaying banana in our output. Now you can use those same square brackets to actually change the values in your list. You don't just have to display them, you can modify them. So here's our original list with apple, banana, and cherry. But if I switch position 2 to become zucchini, then 0, 1, 2, then position 2 is now zucchini. It changes the 0 position, the very first item, to be yam. But notice that banana stayed the same because we didn't actually change it. So the square brackets are just used to access any position in the list, but you can modify it, print it, set it equal to something, whatever you like. Now suppose you want to add items to your list. In this particular situation, we have 3 items, but then we're going to add dragon fruit. This append keyword lets you add on to the end of any of your lists. So now when I print my list, it shows 4 values. You can also start with an empty list. So here I have my list equals, and then I just put empty square brackets, so there's 0 items in my list. And then I can add to my list as many items as I want. Now, insert is a little different than append, because insert allows you to specify where you want the item in the list. So in this case, we have apple, banana, and cherry. And I'm going to add apricot to the 1 position. So banana used to be in the 1 position, but it put apricot in the 1 position and then shifted everything. So insert still adds to the list. It just adds in a particular position and shifts the rest of the items over to make room for it. Now remove allows you to remove an item from the list, and you can say mylist.remove and then specify which item you want to be removed. In this case, they removed cherry, so it's just showing a list of apple, banana, and dragon fruit. Now there's another way of removing from the list, and that you can remove by the index value. Use a different function though, otherwise, like if you had an int list and it was just the same function name, it wouldn't know if it was removing that item or that position. So instead we use pop, and pop says get rid of whatever is at position 3 and then shift the list. So 0, 1, 2, 3, it's getting rid of dragon fruit. And if you see, there it is, getting rid of dragon fruit. In this situation, it's you got 2, 4, 6, and 8, and it's removing position 2, 0, 1, 2. That means it's removing the 6. Even though it says 2, it represents the position. So you see our list over here doesn't have that position. If this happened to be int list.remove 2, then it would actually remove the 2 from the list. Pop allows you to remove from a particular position, but it also allows you to just remove from the end. So in this situation, I don't have any numbers in there, so it just gets rid of the very last item in the list. Clear just clears out the contents of the list. Here I've got a list full of fruit, and then I call clear, shows my empty list. Okay, now you can iterate through a list, and you can use a for loop to do that. Iterating through a list just means you're going to go through each item in the list one at a time. In our case, we're going to go through each item in the list and then just print them. So now it's, instead of displaying with those square brackets and quotes and stuff, we're just displaying the items up and down horizontally instead of vertically. So in this situation, X in int list, X becomes each item in the list one at a time. And so it prints the first item and goes to the second item, prints the second item, prints the third item, and then exits the loop. Now the issue with this type of loop is X is actually just a copy of the variable, so you can't actually change any of the values in the list. You can only access or print them or the like. The items will remain the same. However, oh yeah, here's the example I'm showing that. So here I'm setting X to zucchini, but if I print my list, I still have apple, banana, and cherry. So you can't modify any of the items in a list when using this type of for loop. However, if you access it by index, you can. So here's the same way, but instead of making I become every item in the list, I'm just using a for loop like we've done in the last module to count. And I use the length of the list as my range. So this is going to count 0, 1, 2. And I is going to be 0 the first time it comes through this statement. And it's going to print position 0 in the list, which is apple. Then I will become 1, and it will print the second item in the list, which is banana. Then I will become 2, it will print cherry, and since that has reached the range of the list, it will then fall out of the list. Now with this type of loop, it's a little bit more powerful because you can actually change the values in the list. So for example, I've got for I in range, going to the length, this is all the same, but instead of printing it, I'm setting that particular item equal to zucchini. And when I print my list, I get all zucchini, which is much like what Utah culture has, right? Bunches of zucchini. So now you can iterate by index as well. And in this example, we're just showing you that we can modify items, but we could do it mathematically as well. So remember how before we would say x equals x plus 1, it would add to x. In this case, my list starts out as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm just adding one item to that particular position. I'm adding the value 1. So 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 3, 3 becomes 4, 4 becomes 5, 5 becomes 6. All of the items in the list have been updated by 1. Now you can also use counters in these lists. This gets kind of tricky. So all I'm doing is iterating through the list, but I have this variable sum, and I do this sum plus equals whatever our item in our list is, and then I print it out what our sum is. In this case, sum starts out at 0. It goes through and adds the first item in the list, which is 13. So sum is now 13. Then it goes through the next item in the list and adds that to our sum. So we've got 12 plus 13 is 25. Goes through, adds the 18, becomes 30, 43, and then it adds the 11 and it becomes 54. So in this situation, sum becomes all of the items in the list added together. Okay, now the cool thing about Python is you can sort these lists. So here in this situation, I've got a list and it's got all of my fruit, but just out of order. If I say sort, then it's going to put them in alphanumeric order. So apple, banana, cherries, you can see are A, B, C, D, E right down there. Now I say alphanumeric because, well, let me get to that in a sec. It's not quite alphabetic, it's alphanumeric. But it'll also put numbered lists in order. So here I have 6, 3, 5, 2, 9. Sort that, it becomes sorted in order. You can reverse the list. So if I say reverse equals true, it will just sort it in the reverse order. And that is the end of our lists. So I did want to go back to this one just for a sec though. When I say alphanumeric, like if you put an uppercase A or mix in cases in here, it won't actually do it. We'll put all of the uppercase items first and then all of the lowercase items, just because it thinks that uppercase variables or uppercase letters are bigger than lowercase letters, and that's why it's alphanumeric instead of alphabetic. So just make sure all your lists are the same case, and this will keep it easy. All right, good luck with this. We'll do a little try it out program together in the next video.